Australia's fortunes once rode on the sheep's back, but for those in the wool industry, lately it's been a rough ride. They've done it hard through years of drought, falling exports, high dollar and low prices. But now it seems wool's back in business, and like the mining boom and higher education, it's partly thanks to China. Mike Sexton reports.
The young years have had a terrific start. We had an exceptional season last year on our pastoral property. They were fortunate enough to lamb on green feed, wean on green feed, and had a beautiful spring in them, so they've done really well.
At their property in South Australia's mid-north, Sandy and Di Martin are sorting out this year's flock of ewes.
Got a good one here, Sandy.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, beautiful stable, eh?
Oh, look at that.
Good nourishment.
Oh, it's soft as butter, eh?
Yeah, you want them all like that.
With the help of wool classer Tom Ashby, they're deciding which animals will be kept for breeding and which will be sent to market.
They put a lot of time into their sheep and they buy good genetics, so pretty high standard flock this one, and their sheep are always well sought after at sale yards.
Although the temperatures in the high 30s and the dust and dung stings the senses, this is a pleasant task because after almost 2 decades of red ink, the wool industry is back in the black.
Very good at the moment. We just sold our wool the other day and it's really good. Like, for all the years of hard work and going without, it's really good to generate a really good income.
Finally, two things are coinciding, good wool prices and rain falling out of the sky. So, look, we're delighted for our shareholders and our wool growers that have stayed with wool over those, really tough 2 decades. And we're delighted that they're getting the money that they deserve for their produce.
Historically, Australia exports 90% of its wool clip, which is why a well-meaning but flawed reserve price scheme introduced in the mid-70s all but crippled the industry. Under the scheme, farmers were paid an agreed price, after which brokers exported the wool when the market was high. However, a sharp drop in worldwide demand left warehouses full of unsold bales that eventually grew into a virtual mountain of almost 5 million bales. The scheme was abandoned in 1991, but the burden was felt for another decade.
It was tough to see a premium for the wool that was being produced in the paddocks those years when there was a great stockpile sitting in reserves, and the world knew that. They weren't going to pay a premium while those stocks were there. When the last bale sold in 2002, that was a really great day for the wool industry.
With the wool mountain gone, nature took its toll. A decade of drought turned vast tracts of the nation's sheep grazing country into dust bowls.
Everything was desolate, dusty, the sheep didn't look very good, and you really had to push yourself to keep going through that time. I think probably what gets you through things like that is that everything is cyclical, and so you tell yourself that it's not going to be like this forever.
The wool industry that emerged from the drought was only a shadow of its former self. At its height in 1991, the national flock was 180 million. Now it's 70 million. In Queensland alone, numbers fell from 27 million to 4 million as farmers abandoned sheep for cattle and other pursuits, something that isn't easily reversed.
The research that we have has shown us we've lost a generation of consumers. Wool wasn't actively marketed for about 20 years. We've been back into it. Although we've had an opportunity since 2007, really we've only gotten back into it over the last 15 to 18 months.
Traditionally, wool is sold into North America and Europe. But now, like so many Australian industries, AWI is looking to the emerging markets of Asia and in particular China.
We have an emerging middle class in China which is consuming a lot of luxury goods, and we expect that to continue. I mean, we don't know whether this is the beginning, the middle, the end or the start of the end. My gut says that it's right at the beginning.
Wool marketers believe the best chance of their product being taken up in China is by selling its story to popular young fashion designers, which is why Makai and Banjo Shou Zhe found themselves in a wool shed in Tasmania's Midlands.
Everything here, so including the natural landscape and also the sheep, is so natural and pure. So when I do my design, these are all my inspiration.
The catwalks of Beijing are a long way from the sheep pens of South Australia's mid-north. But the Martins know the size of their wool check relies in part on the success of international marketing. And having survived 20 tough years, they base their work on a simple but solid philosophy.
Every industry has a downturn somewhere along the line, and you just got to make the right decisions and work hard, and hopefully the wheel will turn, and when the wheel changes, you're first cab off the rank to grab it.
Shears are clicking again. Mike Sexton reporting.